Sure. Liam, whatever you're doing, just stop making noises.
Oh, it was the microphone rubbing against my beard while I put my other headphone in.
Okay. I can forgive you for that. Are we recording?
Yeah, we're recording.
Oh,
Very
right.
good.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to an episode of The Joust. A little bit more spacious than usual, spread out a little bit further away. Liam is in his home in Lake Macquarie, and I'm currently 2,000 leagues under the sea. And it's the things we have to do to make sure that that we don't come into contact with each other, unknowingly infect each other, and make the world a much better place. Liam, how are you dealing with isolation?
Well, as you can see, Nag, I'm actually dealing with isolation quite well. If you look at the wall just behind me, I have created a Newcastle Knights mural. I created it using small pieces of thumb painting. And so I think it's pretty close to finish, but I need to flip it around now.
Might need a bit of polish.
I spent years on that.
I did feel for the guys. Recently, because you got to give it to Knights fans. We are the greatest supporters of any club, and
in any sport around the world.
Sport, that's right. And the most passionate people have decided to go out and get tattoos. And anyone that's got a tattoo up until this point now has the incorrect logo on their arms. And God love them for going out there and getting much braver men than I.
Full respect to those with Knights tattoos.
And that's coming from a guy with many terrible tattoos, Liam. You have some of the most haggard tattoos I've ever seen. Do you remember when you'd have fake tattoos as a child and you'd stick them on and you spend hours trying to make sure that it's on and it's damp but it's not too damp, and then you tear it away really slowly and then it's there and it looks good for and you show all your mates
15 minutes.
15 minutes, and then you're over it and you want it off your arm, and then you just start to
and they take so long to wash off.
They look like an image for about an hour, and they look like something's wrong with you for about 2 days, and then
I think so. Well, we used to get them in the bubble gums you get at the footy. So up at Group 2, Mum and Dad would give you $1. You'd go to the canteen, you'd get 2 of the bubble gums. And the bubble gum were always hard as
they took some
tile, and you had to chew through these bastard things to get a tattoo that's on your arm for 15 goddamn minutes. So you can't get wet anyway, and yet we did it every week.
All of those.
Well, that's it. I mean, we were young. Any kind of candy was enjoyable to us. So we did what we could with what we had.
What we could do now, Liam, filling in our time around isolation. A lot of people have been catching up in various ways, Zoom or FaceTime events. I know you and I have been watching Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares together while having a few beers because we can't. Yeah,
we've actually got we've got a tin can at each end of obviously one at my house, one at Nagy's house. We've got a very taut piece of twine going between the two tin cans, and that's kind of how we gather to watch our Kitchen Nightmares. And daytime, obviously we've got smoke signals. Been using smoke signals a fair bit as well, Maggie.
Yeah.
Just innovating. Innovating the way that.
I'm still learning Morse. I'm catching up.
Mate, we're not all.
Should I say beep 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 beep? You'll get that later. You'll get that one later. When we've had football snatched away from us, Liam. And the only way we can fill that void is with more football that's already happened. No new football, only old football.
What's the opposite of snatching something up? Spewing forth. We want to spew forth upon all our viewers some beautiful football that may or may not have happened before today.
Now, Liam, you were in charge of choosing the game that we will be reviewing today.
I was in charge of choosing the game. And now, the game I've selected for you this evening, Jousters, is round 12 of 2003. So this was a pretty big deal, this game, for the men up north, who we won't speak about because we don't care for them. It was the first game, actually, at the new Suncorp Stadium. So Lang Park had been knocked down, redeveloped. This was the very first game in the new field that would become the Brisbane Fortress. Do you have any memories of the old Lang Park, Nagy?
Yeah, look, I remember back, 81, I think it was, going down to Lang Park. I remember it well. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, but I was stuck in Brisbane. So it was, not all rosy. But look, to be honest with you, I can't remember anything before Suncorp Stadium. I was surprised watching this to say that they've just reopened it, because I assumed Suncorp Stadium had been there for eons. And to say that it was a brand new stadium, I was shocked to hear that facility has ever been considered, something of class and choice. The colours, Liam, the colours. I assume they were dated, but no, they 2003. They tell me.
I'll tell you, did it well. The new Perth Stadium, when they do the light shows and all that. That's pretty cool. That's nice and colourful.
Can I say something about those light shows?
Yes.
They do them at what's Parramatta Stadium?
Bank West.
West Bank West. So they do them there as well. I'll tell you what, I reckon those light shows probably fantastic when you're there. don't show up too specky on the telly though, do they?
No, especially when they have the moments of kind of intense darkness where they build up before the light.
There was a period there that our very own Sam Cupid touched on this as well. A camera that ran long ways and width ways on a cable.
Spider cam.
Yeah,
it gave the most grainy image possible of it
was terrible.
Action.
I'll tell you what is a good cam. The Rover, the one they're using for Fox League. It's got a HD camera and it moves along it's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I love it. The field. But we've digressed again, Nag. We've digressed. We as we often have a habit of doing.
Another thing that I was impressed by this is it's still pretty new as far as playing fullback, Robbie O'Davis, and having the pitcher and then the arms fold, which is the classic from when you're under 12.
Which I think the Knights team list comes up and it does the classic. They're there, they take a step forward, they cross their arms, and that was it. That was the mark of toughness for me growing up, because if you're playing rugby league, you're stepping towards the camera and you're crossing your arms no matter what.
Yeah. Was there any surprise players that you saw in this lineup you thought, I'll tell you what, I didn't think that would be 2003? It's an interesting era. It's a real...
Gidley. Kurt Gidley. It's easy to forget that he was on the scene so early. I know he started at 5'8", with Sean Rudder moving to the second row in this game. Yeah. And he would have just been a tiny child, just a small child out on the field there.
Well, he debuted in 01, I believe.
Wow.
He has the unfortunate...
He's even smaller of a child then.
In the 01 season, he debuted, but didn't play in the grand final. And in 97, his brother Matthew debuted in 97, but didn't play in the grand final. So they both had this sort of weird... Yeah. But, Matthew had a wonderful 01 grand final.
It was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Craig Hall, who I remember as a winger, was in the back row off the bench. His face looks like a forward, but he was a winger. I didn't remember, he was one of those players. I usually have a pretty good memory for players, but Craig Hall always just slips through the gaps. Sorry, Craig.
Yeah.
I know you're listening. Craig, huge fan of the show.
I was big fan of the show, yeah, absolutely.
Writes into the sack every day,
all the way from Raymond Terrace.
He hasn't left.
Whatever. He lives in Raymond Terrace now.
Who wasn't in this game, but it's from Raymond Terrace. He played for Magpies. Georgie Carmont.
Hollywood George.
George Hollywood
Gorgeous George.
Both. I like them both. Yeah. It was only when he cut his hair, and then I just started calling him George Hollywood Carmont. I'm not sure if that was ever official nickname.
But I guess the biggest thing that I got out of this game was the form of the eighth immortal, Andrew Joseph Johns. Wasn't he just incredible, man?
If you look at this game, to think that this was towards the end of his career, really. It was before his season-ending injury in 04. He retired in 07, but really at the end of 06 is when he retired. So this is getting towards the twilight of his career, 200th game. So that's a good indication of how experienced he was. But my God, did he keep the pressure on this team and play from the back foot, the Knights from the back foot onto the front foot. And if anyone's questioning why this man should be an immortal, needs to watch this game. Sterling talks about him like a dad, like he's Andrew Johns' father, because he will always go, and right back there, delivering that last pass, who is it again? Andrew Joey Johns. Like this proud sort of feel about him.
Well, why wouldn't he? I mean, that blue New South Wales Blues 7 jersey of Peter Sterling, that's a hard one to fill. So, Andrew Johns, he would have been what, 2 generations after Sterling? It seems feasible.
Sterling, Stewart, and then
he may, in fact, have been sired by Peter Sterling.
Possibly.
Like the ages work out. The ages work out.
He makes 3 line breaks in this game, and the commentary team, I think Rabs just couldn't get enough of him. Joey Johns through again, and it really builds the excitement.
But let's start looking at what Joey did in this game. So obviously a fair bit of time's passed since Joey retired, and it's easy. I forgot just how dominant of a rugby league player he was and how much control he had over the game. Watching this game was absolutely unbelievable. Like one of the early power plays he put on. So Brisbane kind of dominant. The opening 10 minutes, both teams were kind of feeling each other out. 10 minutes to 30 minutes, Brisbane started with the momentum, but then Joey puts across this beautiful kick across his body, moving right and kicking left to force a dropout. And that's where kind of the momentum started to shift. And it took a good, 25, 30 minutes for Newcastle to get the ascendancy.
That's right. We didn't find the front foot from the Brisbane ruled basically the first half, really. And they were all over. It's aggressive. One of the most exciting clashes, and I hate to say it was won by the Brisbane player again and again and again, was Tony Carroll absolutely eating Josh Perry for breakfast.
Actually, I've got a segment dedicated entirely to that in a bit. It's entitled "The City of Brisbane versus Josh Perry." Because it wasn't just Tony Carroll. There was plenty of people piling onto Josh Perry that night.
And Josh Perry made the Origin side that year, which is interesting to know.
He did.
Game
he was one of
2003.
He was one of 6 players named actually the day after this game. And then we've got a couple more examples of just how phenomenal Andrew Johns was in this game. His revolutionary banana kick, that he pioneered, getting it across the field, and it was incredible how good his kicking game was. You got Joey kicking for Anthony Quinn's disallowed first try. I thought he was ruled being in front of the kicker, but again, he's puts a banana kick bomb that almost leads to a try. The Knights left about 3 or 4 tries begging after Andrew Johns' kicks that were the kicks were either put down, the kicker was onside. Newcastle could have put on 50.
What Newcastle had up until about 2004, when we lost Joe to that injury, was just frantic attack. Our best defence was keeping it down their end and throwing everything at them. When we had to defend, still at this time, when we had to defend, we leaked a lot of points. And that's always been, I think, it only happened in 2005, 2004 into 2005 when Joe was coming back and then broke his jaw in 2005. Basically take Johns out, and we don't have that flair. But you can't get all the pieces are there at this point to have just a really aggressive attack. Considering we had like Steve Simpson in playing starting front row in this game, in the absence of Matt Parsons and Adam Walno, and then Craig Hall, as I mentioned before, playing in the back row. It just shows we could rely so heavily on players like Ben Kennedy, Badiris, Johns, Kennedy. Could you get him as far as leading a pack around in Badiris, throwing those perfect balls to Johns? He has a radar to Johns. Exactly where he is. And when he's not going to Johns, he goes to Kennedy. And it's I tell you what, it's a marriage, those three. It's sort of Polygamous.
A strange
smaggish.
polygamous. That's the word we're looking for, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely not monogamous, but yeah,
No.
we've got, again, like the opportunities that Andrew Johns offered for the Knights outside backs especially, again, should have put 50 points on.
So often you hear about when they compare, they said to Jonathan Thurston, they said Jonathan Thurston was like a bull terrier. Like he was just there again and again. They'd knock him down, he was back. That's what you see from Andrew Johns in this game. Like he'll be tackled with the ball, he'll give an offload, it will get passed again, and then he's already back in the line.
Yeah.
Really wanting it. And it's just an amazing game to see. A real class player. We could probably talk about him all day, but what other elements of this game really enjoyed?
No, I intend to bring up one more point about Joey, and this is often cited as the reason he became an immortal ahead of a couple of other contenders. And we've got some examples here. Beautiful classic Joey tackle, low, hits hard, drives. And then we've got another really strong tackle from Andrew Johns. And then after that, we get a really nice, juicy slow motion replay, because the difference between Johns and the other halfbacks being considered for immortalhood, was his defence. People often say that was an underrated part of his game, and I disagree. I know everyone at the time was like, he's fantastic at that. He's wonderful. We rate him very highly.
You believe it was appropriately rated?
Yes.
Yes, which is often confused for underrated, appropriately rated. Yeah. I feel it's people think there's something about bringing up an underrated player that people really get a lot of pride in, and that also is. It's just one of those things they say, oh, I tell you what, he was underrated. Like it's a little secret. People love the little secrets. I tell you, he's an underrated player. That bloke running out there for State of Origin. It's like, no, he's been appropriately rated. A little secret room. And I tell you, I don't want to detract from the greatness of Andrew Johns, because I got into an online argument with a fellow recently about Andrew Johns, and he believed that he should be wiped from the game, from the history book, shouldn't be an immortal. Why do you think that? Because of his off-field antics, and he was a drug user. Now, I reminded this fellow quite clearly. I said, you're not clever for saying that he's a drug user, considering he wrote in his book that he had an issue with recreational drugs. Now, people feel
people still bring it up as though it's some. People bring it up like as though it's some revelation.
Yes,
that no one's known about this. That they think. Oh, actually, but now you're forgetting he did get caught. Remember?
No,
he got caught in London.
But if you remember why he was in London, it was after he'd already retired. So during his career, he was never caught with drugs. He never failed a drug test. And the only reason that anyone knows about his drug use is because he told everyone in a book. Now, my thing is that, I don't condone drug use. I don't promote drug use. However, what I say is the difference between Andrew Johns and, a large chunk of the other players in the current playing community and ex-players of great, varying greatness, is he was honest. He was honest about his drug use. And, if you want to tar everyone with the same brush, there's, I believe, since they've brought in the in-house drug testing, that the 3 strikes policy, which is the first one is an in-house and it doesn't go to the media, the second one goes to the media, and the third one, you'll be sacked from the club. That policy was brought in. They've tested positive 150 players in the NRL.
Wow, that's quite a few.
That's the ones that stay in-house. But also, maybe not all his antics can be defended. Maybe being quite intoxicated and saying certain things to women at an airport and then having a little snooze on the floor, probably isn't.
We've all been there, though.
Oh God, haven't we? Back on track, Liam. So the man.
We digress again.
It's a wonderful expose of the skill, the ruggedness of Andrew Johns.
Oh, absolutely, and also the finesse. I mean, I've got here a couple of moments. We see a great example of the man's coolness under pressure. He kicked from. I think he kicked one from his good side in this one, off the sideline, absolutely buried it. And then he had a very unique kicking style with his kicking in play. And I remember I used to try and emulate it. He'd follow through with the kicking foot. So if you can see my leg, he'd follow through with the kicking foot.
Yeah.
And then the other foot would come up and almost click heels.
Yeah.
And it was a very unique kicking style that I tried to emulate as a kid, and I couldn't pull it off.
It was like the scissor, like one would go up and then it would sort of...
The scissor, yes.
Scissor,
I should have just done it with my fingers instead of my legs.
That's right. You showed it in real time, and that's what I enjoyed. Also,
hey, please like, comment, and subscribe if you like my legs. It's a whole different channel we're doing.
Liam's legs.
But now you stumbled upon something earlier that I was hoping to discuss.
Yeah.
It deserved its own segment. Absolutely deserved its own segment. That segment is the City of Brisbane versus Josh Perry. Now, when did Josh Perry break out into first grade? What was his
01
kind of lead in time? 01, eh? Yeah.
Yeah. They, I believe we lost Butts and Chief basically within a couple of years each other. I think Chief was 98 and then Butts was 2000. And so after Chief left, they pretty much got Matty Parsons not long after. Also, Josh, this is interesting. I saw footage once of Chief coming back to play a game for the Knights, and I believe he may have retired or was talking about retirement, and he had a long layoff, and he came back, and he got so concussed. I believe it was against Cronulla, and he stood up, and then they're saying he's knocked out, doesn't know where he is. And I believe it was David Peachy that's standing beside him going, he doesn't know where he is. And they go, Chief, where are you? And he goes, he couldn't answer them. So anyway, without Josh Perry came in as a bit of like the new forwards. Him, Warner was in 03, but Josh obviously played in 01 with Matty Parsons to fill the gap of Butts and Chief. Both no longer, and I guess Adam Muir as well. It was a bit earlier, wouldn't it?
Actually, back to the concussions, I remember playing third grade at Dengart Park in East Mayfield.
Oh, yes.
And Paul Doherty got hit in one of those hits, where they fall on their back and the arms are Frankensteining and it's just terrible. And Dad was running the water and he came on and he goes, Docker, how are you, mate? You doing okay? And the only thing he could say was just, football.
What?
Football. I think he couldn't even pronounce it correctly. He was like, football.
That's turned into a Monty Python character. If we talked about Joey, off-field antics moments ago, and we all still love him, but we know that he's got a bit of a checkered past as far as antics. But
that's what people love. That's what people love. They love a flawed hero. They love a hero.
But we had Jesus Christ, the man who lives without sin. We had Paul Harrigan, the man who lived without sin. The man could not have been more perfect. He
couldn't, and so wholesome, and even that fight against the fight against Marty Bella in, I want to say 93. Bella's looking wild. He's swinging around, and Chief just holding him, saying, "Mate,
he said you want to go, I'll go with you.
If you want to go, if you want to go, I'll go with you." Yes. But he wasn't starting it. He was just like, "I'm okay. I'd rather not. However, would prefer." We can carry on with this. And then he smacked Bella with, I think, left, right. It was just beautiful.
The same thing you say if you're at a wedding and you want to go dance. If you want to go, I'll go with you.
Hell, I bought NIB insurance purely because Chief told me to.
Well, and look, everyone's still
says it on the TV. He gets on the TV and he says, "Look, buy your NIB health insurance. It's very good. I highly recommend it." And it's the Chief. So, of course, I took his recommendation. It comes highly recommended by that man. I'd buy an enormous plate of human shit if he gave it a very good reference.
Newcastle's dad, isn't he?
No, he's Newcastle's sweet and caring
uncle.
Stepdad. He's not really related to you by blood, but he treats you so well. He's so caring. He helps you develop as a human being, but he's not technically blood related. So I like to think
really
Newcastle's
stepdad. In 2013, I ran into him, and we were at West Club, and I was with a good friend of mine, Oscar Gallagher, and the Knights had just beaten the Bulldogs in 2013. Not the final, but it was a game that we weren't meant to win. But obviously excited. We went to West Leagues, and we were walking up a set of stairs, and Chief was walking down a set of stairs, and we sort of said, "Hey, Chief, how about that win?" And he said, he just got real. He's like, "Oh, I tell you what, boys, how good's this? You know, Sydney club comes down the F3, and you know we give him a smack, and we send him back. I tell you, it doesn't get much better than this. And by this point now, we're not moving any further forward, and but we're also on either side of the guardrail of the stairs and sort of chatting down, which is not the most comfortable thing. And also, we don't know Chief. We're not friends with him. But it turned into
we cannot stress that strongly enough.
Strongly enough.
Do you not know Paul Harrigan?
But he was just so nice that he spoke to us in a way that as if we'd been friends for years. And he was still so happy to see the Knights win. Like it was just, you could just see the emotion pouring out of him. That it was like, how good's this? You know, it may as well have been his, one of his, children or stepchildren getting married. That's the kind of elation that was on his face. It was like, as a proud dad,
a proud stepdad. There's another. He was walking through the quad at Newcastle. We don't call it the quad in Australia. Whatever you call it, the outdoor cemented area at the uni. And a mate of mine, the asphalt. Mate of mine yelling, "Hey,
I think
Chief!"
you'll find it's the piazza.
Piazza, yes. Sorry, that's just what I was looking for, the piazza. And Chief's walking across Le Piazza, and my mate yells out, "Hey, Chief!" And as though it was a completely natural reaction, Chief just turns around and goes, "Hey, boys!" Like that was his natural reaction to hearing his name shouted, was just to turn his head and yell, "Yes, boys," and give a thumbs up. What a legend. The City of Brisbane versus Josh Perry. Now, this was a long-running battle throughout that game, which really started in Brisbane's favour with an early Tony Carroll spear tackle. And then almost immediately after, Tony Carroll again puts Josh Perry on his ass. And a mere 8 minutes later, Josh Perry, he got smashed again. And then you just keep going. Carroll smashed Perry. Josh Perry gets smashed again. Perry got a good one back with a nice hard run off the kickoff. And then he proceeded to give away a penalty for a swinging arm. So I'd say he got another one back. He won that battle. And then at the end, I've got the count here 2, 4, 5 points to 3. Brisbane in favour of Josh Perry.
That started from,
but it was a hell of a running battle.
It started from probably a 3-0 initially against Perry.
It was, yeah. It was looking like it was going to be a washout.
Look, Perry was a class forward. With us, he was a bit of a recluse, but in Manly, they managed to hone him in and just and he played some more representative football. He was definitely he was up there. He was my favourite player for a while. I think once Parsons retired, I think I moved on to Josh Perry. I always liked the props.
Right. You like your big boys, Nagy.
I love my big boys.
Like your large fellas.
Chief, Butts.
Perry.
Josh Perry.
Justin Ryder.
Cal McDonald, a good friend of mine, was always we used to argue who was better, Josh Perry or Adam Woolnough. And then I believe in 2009, 8-9, Perry was with Manly, and made the Origin side. And I would still text Cal and say, "Look, Perry's ahead." Woolnough retired, and I thought, that's it. We've got it. But then he came back. Woolnough came back and played for the Storm and won a premiership.
Now, the next segment I've got that we'd like to dismantle is the Knights tries. Now, obviously, this is actually a fairly easy segue because the first try came off Josh Perry getting smashed again. So I think it was the fourth time he'd been put on his ass, and then plays the ball for Anthony Quinn to score in the other corner. It's a sweeping backline play. So obviously Perry, I think, plays the ball on the right-hand side. The Knights just muck around with it, play with it across the field for Quinn to go over in the
What a second phase. They were very big on second phase play.
Yeah.
Both teams. It was very...
That was something I'd forgotten about the Knights, how much they built off offloads and quick play the balls.
Yeah.
And Chief was one of the early pioneers of that, getting that quick play the ball and getting up very quickly.
Do you know, I was thinking to myself through most of this game, they're underutilising Tomato Tadu in this.
Were they? Yeah, they really were.
But then he ends up just scoring a bunch of tries.
Yeah. Fairly simple tries, though.
He was a good finisher. And the goalpost was still brought into play here. They had to check the goalpost because if you remember the stupid rule the NRL had for years that if you touched the goalpost, you were out. So
corner post.
What did I say? Goalpost.
The corner post. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, corner post.
If you touch the, it'd be weirder if you touched the goalpost.
Yeah.
But the corner post. But they used to check because it was like just a tube of cardboard. They'd check for like it's bending, and they'd be like, "Oh, he's touched it there." It's like, so what? So it's
in the air. It doesn't matter. And now we keep going through the Knights' tries. Anthony Quinn actually scored a second not long after. It was a run off a 50-metre intercept.
It's wonderful to see.
And then the next one see is
never a quick winger, Anthony Quinn. He wasn't a fast man.
He wasn't.
No, he was
sturdy though.
Sturdy, he had a good strong hips on the boy.
And built like our dear friend Brandon Clough, good listener, good fan of the show. He's built like a chair.
He was built like a chair.
Built like a chair.
Some say he had
sturdy,
4 legs.
Reliable.
Yeah, you could sit on him. He wasn't moving.
But hey, the man can run away off a 50-metre intercept. And then our next try we have, you see a fantastic support run from Badiris. He just sizes up through the middle. And he sets up. He gets tackled. He ends up taking the ball to ground, but he sets up for the try on the next play, which Andrew Johns threw an absolute rocket out to Gidley, who caught it with one hand against his knee, and then one of his incredible flick passes, I believe it was, to put Tahu over in the corner. And then.
I'm going to ask Liam: was there a better centre wing combination in the NRL era than Gidley Tahu?
The only one I'd put close would be Leipana. Jordan Rapana or Rapana.
Now this is tricky because they're both well, no, they could probably both. No, well, Leilua nearly played State of Origin. It's murky there, but for someone
it's very murky.
For a centre wing combination that can win a premiership and go out there and absolutely kill it at State of Origin as well for many years, Gidley Tahu.
I think they're the benchmark, but I think Leipana's not far behind them.
Oh yeah, I think they probably changed the way the finesse, but there wasn't many.
Yeah.
There hasn't been that many centre wing combinations that have performed consistently like Gidley Tahu.
Which is a real shame. I know you often see centre seems to be the most undervalued position on the field these days.
These days it is, I think it is.
Yeah, it's a real shame. So I think centre's a very hard spot to play, especially in defence. You've got your wingers dropping back and coming forward, so you're having to make calls on, which line is going to be run at you and blah, blah, blah. I think centres should feel a bit begrudged by the greater NRL public. So I think they don't get a lot of the plaudits they deserve. We see again the ball going from one side of the field to the other for Mr. Gidley himself. Mr. Gidley himself to score in the corner. And there was a pass from Robbie-O to Tamana that was just fantastic. Robbie-O, I didn't really remember him for his ball playing skills. He was always out running, quick, scything through the line, fullback. But and then again, another beautiful sweeping backline play. Again, it was just the way the Knights seemed to play around that era. The ball would just go side to side.
With confidence.
Until someone found a hole. And that hole was generally off Andrew Johns. And I'll make one last observation from the game. I think it's one of Rab's great pieces of commentary, and I'll let you hear it on audio, and I won't ruin it by trying to imitate it myself.
Played by G, 10 metres into opposition territory. Here's Lockyer, as busy as a bumblebee. Now it's Kelly.
But yeah, it was a good win, and like I said, it was actually the Knights' first ever premiership victory in Brisbane. And not only that, but it was it was the first game at the Suncorp Stadium that had previously been the cauldron of Lang Park.
It was a great game to watch as far as nostalgia. There was a real sort of interesting era of players like Mark Hughes is still playing. I was like, oh, of course Hughes was still playing, but you remember him as an earlier player. Still saw players like O'Davis getting around, but then he saw these newer players as well that sort of stretched on, like Josh Perry, like Danny Badiris, who's played for much longer in his career. and it was a little bit of past Daniel Abraham, who stuck around for quite a few more years after that. It was an interesting era to see, but gee, we still managed to play really aggressively, play exciting football, really entertaining football. And I think there was definitely an entertainment factor that's missing now.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. The difference I've noted in the older games to the newer games is when you look at the three-man tackle. In the olden days, you had the three-man tackle. The first man comes in low, hits around the waist, and the other two come over the top. But in the modern-day game, the age of the wrestle and the slowing down of the ball, you get your three-man tackle, but two come to the top to start with, and then one comes in at the legs.
Yes.
I never really noticed that until I started going through these old games. And one thing we didn't really touch on, the form of Ben Kennedy. Now, watching through the game, he didn't have too much that would have made the highlight reels, but the work he did was just incredible.
It was incredible. He was such a class back row, and the reason why he made the Fox Sports top 20 NRL players of all time, and he only played 160 NRL games. So like 86 for Canberra and 94 for Newcastle. But I remember him being with Newcastle for a long time.
Yeah.
He also made Manly's greatest side ever, and he only played there for 2 years. Yeah. Boys, my battery's dying. I think we've been talking for far too long. It's been a wonderful catching up, though. I do pine for the time of there being actual football games on the television, and also another time that I can share a room with another person. Because, God forbid this goes on much longer than it needs to, because it's torture. I'm
actually having quite a good time. I thrive in times of hunkering down.
Hunkering and bunkering, yeah. All right, Liam, I'll leave you to it. You look very comfortable there. If this goes on any further, your head will just hit the pillow and you'll go off to sleep. But I do miss all this with you fellas. This will be over soon, and we'll remember this as just a mere shadow on what else is to be considered a very, very wonderful time. It'll
be like a fart in a hurricane. You'll barely notice it.
But still, it stinks at the moment. Liam, we'll get a whiff of each other again soon. Please comment if you bothered watching any of this and you wanted to see us do it again. If not, keep your eyes and ears out, and we'll find another way to get into your brains and onto your screens. Thanks very much, guys, for joining us for our very first Zoom. Wonderful time. Thank you very much, guys. My battery's about to die. We'll see you possibly next week.
Justice.
Bye-bye.